did it in 378 days. So essentially a year and a week and a half. You have to kind of give him that, because there's no other person that's done two-time undisputed as quickly, I believe. I'm not even sure if Clarissa Shields did it that quick, and that's a whole different subsection of boxing to begin with. In the men's field, like he's done something that hasn't been replicated and may not be replicated, within the next few years. So yeah, it's got to be him.
Dani?
For 2023 Fighter of the Year, I am gonna have to go with Naoya Inoue. Reason being, as similar to what Maestro said, within the 12-month period, he's become undisputed again, fought two good champions, and with the Fighter of the Year award, it's about what have you done for me lately. For instance, last year it was Dimitri Bivol with the Canelo and Zurdo Ramirez fight. But last year, I think and then pound for pound was different. So pound for pound and Fighter of the Year is two different categories. So I think now it's been established more that, because people was conflating the two. So yeah, for this year, it's definitely got to be Inoue for his achievements this year. But he's not pound for pound number one. But Fighter of the Year, he is.
Who do you have as pound for pound number one?
Terence Crawford.
Okay.
And I was about to say, pound for pound, you've got all different kind of procedures and policies, and how you see it's very, very subjective with pound for pound. That's why I always stay out of it, because my idea of something may not be somebody else's. So I kind of keep out of that. But before I go on, I've got to say thank you to Aaron Daly for the super chat. Thank you very much. Thank you to all the guests that have joined us as well. It's New Year's Eve. You could be chilling out. I don't know. Maybe you're just bored on the settee, but we appreciate you showing up. Very, very much respected. D-Star Boxing, thank you very much for the $10. We appreciate that all. With Inoue, and do you think that us over this side, and I'm going to call us the West because I guess we are, I haven't got an Eastern correspondent. I would have loved to have got Zilly Zhang on, but, we digress. Do you think that we sleep on boxers from that side of the world? And do you think Inoue has just literally blinded us with that skill that he's got? There's no doubt about his skill. Even though Tapales, even this time, I was on your watch along, Dani. We saw Tapales, he came to win. He did a better job than Fulton. He had more confidence. And he looked like he was really in the fight. Do we get, do we get really gassed quickly on fighters because they're extraordinary, but they may not be the best? It's just that the competition, the levels that they've been up to when we say this is the Fighter of the Year. And that's just me playing devil's advocate. Anyone?
Well, I would say overlooked. Not, I wouldn't say necessarily, because we've become familiar with fighters from the Far East, i.e. Manny Pacquiao. He's won Fighter of the Year before. He's been pound for pound number one once upon a time. So, and he's from the Philippines, which is not too far from Japan.
Fighting in the US though, right?
Yes, that's where he made his big splash name, but he was winning world championships down at strawweight, which is now minimum weight, and the lighter weights back in the Philippines when he was on eating just a bowl of rice a day with no gravy. So we know about the struggle in his journey. I know, Base, you're laughing, but this is what he said in an interview. This is documented. So yeah, we've come to know about guys from that side of the world. There's been Olympic guys, so we know about that side. But I do know that, on a whole, boxing, we still look to the US as like, oh, it's like music, innit? Oh, you ain't made it until you make it in the US, in the Big Apple. Like Madison Square Garden is the mecca of boxing. Now you got to go to Vegas. You got to fight in Madison Square Garden or Vegas. Yeah, we've had a nice little Indian summer with Wembley Stadium and Tottenham Hotspur and stuff like that. But ultimately, every fighter's dream, when you're a boxer and you're coming up in the game, you always want to go over into the glitz and glamour into America. I remember back in the day, even before Madison Square Garden, it was Atlantic City, because that was the Vegas before Vegas. Maestro would know all about that. So
Yeah, Donald Trump was running a lot of the fights out of there, featuring Mike Tyson. Later on, Arturo Gatti was kind of the last big star out of Atlantic City. Boots Ennis right now fights a lot out of Atlantic City. I was at his fight in July, but yeah.
yeah, Atlantic City in New Jersey. So, but you know, it seems there's a lot. Well, there is a lot of money out in China because they knew he got 7 million for his last fight. So they're like, why does he need to go over to America? He's going to end up getting less money fighting in America than he would out in his own country, out in, like, you know, the Far East in Japan and so forth and so forth. So yeah, I think we do know about them, but we ain't putting respect on them as much as we should, because we still look at the American fighters as you know, the go-to place, especially when you've got the LDBC brigade getting a bit silly as well. It does muddy the waters a bit.
I don't know.
What I will,
Go on. Sorry, Maestro. Yeah, go on.
yeah, what I was gonna say is that I disagree with some of what Danny was saying. I think that with Pacquiao, he really didn't make a name for himself until he kind of went up in the weight classes. The issue for me is that when you're looking at historically 122 and below, 118 and below, 115 and below, it has been overlooked. I mean, Japan has been running these divisions for a while now. And I
Natural
don't just
weight.
mean Japan. Yeah, I don't just even mean Japanese fighters, but also Japan hosting fights, featuring guys like Chocolatito, who was big in Japan before he was big in the United States. You know, there's a
Wow.
future Hall of Famer that never gets any recognition in the UK and in the US, Doni Nietes, multiple weight division champion, one of the greatest Filipino fighters of all time. Unlike Pacquiao, Doni Nietes never went up in weight to, like, you know, lightweight, welterweight, etc. He's very overlooked. Right now, we got a guy, Kazuto Ioka. I consider him to be a future Hall of Famer. He was fighting today on New Year's Eve. I couldn't even watch his fight. That's like 3 or 4 years running now where I can't watch Kazuto Ioka fights. He's one of the best fighters in the world, definitely in the lower weight divisions. We never get to see this guy. We never get to hear about this guy. When I talk to Eddie Hearn about him, because guess what? Eddie has fighters that fight in and around his weight class. They don't even mention him as a potential opponent for Gallo Estrada or Bam Rodriguez. So I would say definitely the Asian fighters, especially in the lower weight divisions, are very overlooked. And those are only a few names. And like there's there's a lot more names than the ones I mentioned.
No,
Base.
I totally agree. I mean, I almost wanted to cut Danny off, but I do believe in parliamentary procedure.
Do you?
Us as the hardcore-ish type community, yeah, we may know some of them, but even we don't know all of them. Like people like Kenshiro Taraji gets absolutely no respect on this side of the world, and he's one of the greatest champions down there at light flyweight currently. Him, Kayaguchi as well. You've also you've got Kazuto Ioka, as Maestro just said. Kosei Tanaka, who's still at 115, is a four-weight. He's trying to become a four-weight champ now. The only people that get any type of shine is almost when they move into bantamweight and beyond. So obviously we've got a new way as like the shining beacon, but then that's still you got Nakatani, who's just about getting a name for himself because he's on top rank cards, but he's on the prelims before the event even starts half the time now. So yeah, in terms of that market, there needs to be a lot more exposure, and I think part of the DAZN deal that Eddie Hearn done might actually work out in our favor in terms of seeing more of those lighter weights than the Japanese and sort of the Chinese, the Filipino, the Thai stars. But yeah, they need more exposure, but it's good that at least a couple of their shining achievements come through. But I think also that's a bit of a shame. Why do they have to be the best of the actual best, the generational talent, just for us to notice them when they've actually got very good people who are leagues better even than the so-called average stars that a lot of us champion? You know,
Because
so
there's
to me,
elitism in boxing as well.
well, it's familiarity, it's all that, but that's my point. It's almost like to have a different conversation, which I don't want to have on your live, but it's like
I
I shouldn't
understand.
have. Yeah, you know what I mean. Like, why am I have to celebrate mediocrity when there's people that are doing better or even just as good or even better, but they're not getting the same amount of attention. Like,
because I
that's
think
what we need to
there's a
stop.
hierarchy. There's a system, and it's kind of good that you've touched on that, because we can touch how the power shift. You know, Maestro's kind of like saying, well, he never made it until like kind of like moved to the States. That's what I'm talking about. And now we're getting boxing shifting over to the East. We've got Japan on the map. Like, we're watching, you know, it's great sitting at 9 a.m. in the morning watching Japanese fights on Top Rank via Sky Sports. And now we've also got the Saudi Connect. There's a power shift going over to the East. And I'm not fussed, because as long as I get to watch boxing, I don't care where they're from or where I'm watching it. But what do you guys think of that when we talk about the business side of boxing? I'm just going to mute you, Maestro, because yeah.
He sounds like he's moving furniture out there.
You know what I mean? Oh, but yeah, when he comes back, I'll put it back on.
Yeah, location. I was getting burnt by the sun out here. My fault.
No sun cream now.
Yeah, the power shift is going over from the West to the East. Matches in Japan, like I said. And then obviously now we've got the Saudi Connect. And the Saudi Connect, it's like everybody wants that. I want to fight in Saudi because that's where the money is. What do you think is going to happen in regards to boxing? I mean, I've got my own opinion, which is, to me now, the belts used to be up there. The belts are now in second place. And it's about the money fights. But what do you think? You guys, like I said, you've got more knowledge around that than me.
I'll go first. I mean, I think a lot of the time the money fights come hand in hand with the belts, because usually one of the best people within a division is holding them. So you may not necessarily get all the belts involved, but more times than not, the biggest stars will find their way into a title shot because they create the money for the sport, and the sanctioning bodies are going to want their belts to be a part of those events. With that being said, I mean, look, Saudi is it's the flavor of the month at the moment. That could last for a while. Saudi, obviously, Eddie also did the Abu Dhabi thing last year for Champion Series, which, funny enough, was supposed to happen again this year. No idea why that didn't. But there's always going to be, I guess, a section of the world whereby they're still going to have big nights. Like, for instance, the UK, we're always going to have big nights over here. Whether or not people can get paid like they get paid in Saudi Arabia, there's always going to be big stadium or, like very big arena fights or whatever. In the States, you're always going to have a Vegas because there's only going to be a select few, like American boxers that are really going to, gravitate towards that Saudi bag. Most of them being, probably like Muslim converts and stuff out, because those are the ones that are going to be invited before anything else. And then everywhere's still going to have their own little area, but in terms of like just a glamour, yeah, because Japan have always got their thing going on, even though the West never looks at what they do. Japan still has their thing, and their fighters still make huge amounts of money. And that whole eastern side of the world, they make money. Like, they don't need the West for anything. It's just an extra bonus if people over here know their stars. But someone like Inoue doesn't care if the US knows who he is, or the UK, because he's known and loved and respected in Japan. Probably every civilian over there knows who he is. So in some places, when the economy is self-sufficient and self-sustaining, the rest of it, like I said, it's a bonus. It doesn't have to be a be all and end all. And that could end up being the same way with Saudi as well moving forward. And at the moment, they're only really invested in those upper weights. So up until any time when it starts to trickle down, it's only going to be maybe the heavyweight division, whereby that they then become the new mecca of boxing. Outside of that, everywhere else is still going to have the same events with the other same people that have been fighting.
Dani?
Go on, Maestro, if you want to go first. Go on.
No, I was just going to piggyback off of some of what Base said. It's very interesting to me that the ESPN version in Latin America shows way more global boxing than the ESPN version in the United States. I mean, they show everything. I mean, 108, 112, 115, 118. Every Inoue fight, every Ioka fight, all of these fights are broadcast. So there's always an international market. It seems to me that the Saudis are principally interested in the heavyweight division. You also see them venturing into the cruiserweight division and now the light heavyweight division. But I don't see as much interest in Saudi Arabia with the lower weight classes. So whenever you get a domestic fight, let's say a Lee Wood, Josh Warrington, that's always going to land to me in the UK. The UK is always going to be the market for that type of a fight, right? Now, if you get a fight featuring two heavyweights that are from Britain, I think at that point, Saudi Arabia is more of a disruptor. They have a lot of money, obviously. And because of the time zone difference, you do have the, similarity there. It's not that far off, like a Vegas fight where you're getting up at 3, 4, 5 in the morning to watch a pay-per-view. You can watch a pay-per-view at a reasonable hour if it's taking place in Saudi Arabia. I agree with what Bay said about the Muslim converts. Maybe that, I'm not going to say that's the main reason, but, I don't know if you follow, but Gervonta Tank Davis, there's videos about him this week converting, introducing his new Muslim name. And it's interesting because you started off by asking about the belts versus kind of the big money fights. Gervonta Tank Davis is a perfect example of someone who's been able to monetize his name and his star power in the absence of having any real belts at all.
I'm Ryan Garcia.
And Ryan Garcia, but Tank even more so. I mean, that's the one fight I regret going to. I went to 3 fights in Vegas this year. That was the one I regret going to because I got sucked up into the melodrama of everything. But let's face facts. I can't remember the last time. I'd have to go to BoxRec, honestly. The last time Tank Davis defended an actual real world title belt, not a secondary title belt, an actual real world title belt. That was a fight featuring 2 fighters fighting at a catchweight, fighting for no title at all, not even a secondary title. Neither of them were world champions with a rehydration clause, fighting on pay-per-view. And that was the biggest boxing event money-wise in the United States this year. No title belts on the line. It was a catchweight fight featuring 2 guys that weren't world champions, fighting with a rehydration clause on pay-per-view. That was the biggest event. So there also are always going to be, those type of fights. And then the other one, big one in that kind of realm as well, is Jake Paul, right? Jake Paul has had a number of major events, big events. I say major, meaning that they were on pay-per-view and in arenas, right? I'm excluding his last fight, that, did, by all accounts, pretty good business for him. So, there's always going to be a lane in boxing for the people that are chasing money and not necessarily title belts.
Dani?
Yeah. Funny enough, on the back of what Maestro said, yes, we had Gervonta Davis convert. We had Jarrell Miller. We saw convert on the week of Day of Reckoning. I think he looked
on
genuine.
He was weeping October Red. He was weeping. I mean, this is an authentic guy here, Jarrell Big Baby Miller.
Yeah, and also I saw Tony Harrison the other day convert also. I saw a video of that. So yeah, there seems to be a shift towards that sort of that religion. But as far as with the big money fights versus the belt, I think fans are becoming more educated and a bit more happy that if we would rather see the good fights rather than it just being a trinket belt on the line or seeing a big fight as there must be a world title fight on the line, i.e. the Day of Reckoning show was a prime example. There was only one world title fight on the card, and that actually ended up being probably the most lackluster affair out of the entire card in Dimitri Bivol versus Lyndon Arthur. all the other ones, people might have got cleaned out quite early, but the other people that at least had a go, even Mark Demori had a go. He landed a few shots on. He landed a few hooks on Hrgovic before he started getting the donkey punches in the back of the head.
Yeah, Hrgovic does that though.
Yeah,
Hrgovic is. If you saw Hrgovic fight Dempsey McKean, his last fight, Dempsey McKean did not know which way to walk back to his corner, and that was from a clean hit to the back of the head.
Yeah.
If I'm training a guy fighting Hrgovic and I'm in the back with the referee, I'm getting it in his head. Watch the rabbit punches from and all fight week. I'm bringing it up in every interview as well.
Yeah, and funny enough, I even predicted what was going to happen in another fight that happened in January. The shot that was going to do it, and that's another guy you've got to watch out for is Arthur Beterbiev. He is a behind the ear.
No, we're not going to have any Beterbiev slander on here, Danny.
No, he's my guy. He's my guy. But he does
I will not allow any Beterbiev slander. He does not do that.
All right.
Hold on, Danny, but let's be clear. Behind the back of the ear isn't quite the same as behind the back of the head. Like there's different points.
Temple shot versus rabbit punch.
Cranium.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Beterbiev likes it there, but Hrgovic likes it like right back there.
That's a totally different. Yes, very different.
Very flagrant. But yeah, as far as we saw, Hrgovic had a go. Even Ellis Zorro had a go, and that ultimately ended up him getting cleaned out. So, and then we saw, obviously, apart from Wilder, I don't know what he was doing there.
We can touch on all of this because we can.
Yeah, but that was a big fight. AJ Otto Wallin, non-title fight, great fight. So you don't necessarily have to have a world title belt on the line to be a big fight, especially in Britain, because British fans, they just like a good old Barney, and they like a good
Sorry, Danny, one caveat to that wasn't predicated on any of the individual fights. It was that whole event was a success because there was good fights throughout the cards. If it was just one of those fights on it wouldn't have done that well, even if it was AJ Varlin, because it as a thing by itself, there's not as big of a demand. It's because there was 8 very big names, or at least 10 big names on the card that people knew. That's what sold that. So that's a totally different thing to saying you can have big fights with no belts on the line. That's I agree.
The only bad fight on paper on that whole card to me was Demori versus Hrgovic. Like, I was looking forward to literally every other fight other than that one fight.
Yeah, true. And yeah, I know what you mean. You mean you've got to have a stacked card, similar to how, the UFC likes to try and stack it, even though they do reload the dryer a bit too much for my liking with their cards. But I think with Britain, we're more happy to have big fights over belts. I think the problem is, I think the American market tend to look at belts and the O as something a bit like, it's like the be all and end all, the O and a belt. It must be like, they love a Reggie belt and a this belt and a that belt. So I think that needs to, that culture needs to sort of get diluted down a bit over in the American market, I believe, because I think Britain's a bit more just hardcore fights about it. But so that's my opinion on that.
One sec, guys, let me just jump through the chat because a few people have commented. If Ben says, "What's up, Maestro?" Biggest upset of the year has got to be Derek Chisora winning a fight. That's Chris Welsh. Good evening, one of my regular live listeners. Shout out to you. Inoue is a freak, but in a good way. Let's have a look. Oh, Eken, APC Bishop. Maestro is diverse in his opinion, and he doesn't bend to what everybody else wants him to say because he's got his own mind.
He loves my channel. He's always on my channel talking. He loves it. So
he's on my channel. He's on.
Is it? Okay.
He's a proper boxing troll. He goes through the roster.
Well, to be fair, streaming across all of your channels, but I don't know if it is. But I clicked something so all of you get the same stream. It just says me copying and downloading. But anyway, guys, as well, Base, I don't know if you want to put all your handles in the chat so everybody follow Fight Fan TV, Basedakid Hardcore Casual, Maestro as well. Just put your handles in there. follow their channels. Like I said, we've all got stuff in common. We're all boxing fans. We've all got our own opinions, and we can have healthy debates without screaming at each other or muting people or cutting people off. Inouye's my favorite fighter of the year. SWJ, good evening. Good question coming in from Nathan. I'll come back to that. The troll's actually asking good questions in here. He's not really saying anything. Trump owns the rights to a few Mike Tyson fights. Well, that's interesting to know, Dan. And to be fair, I didn't even know that Trump was. See what I mean? Back in them days.
Yeah, he was a boxing promoter. He used to run fights in Atlantic City at his hotel casino.
Did not know that.
He's actually very good friends with Mike Tyson.
Interesting. I know he's quite good friends. Is it with Dana White? He turns up to the UFC. Alexander Wilson, thank you for the $2. Don't forget Tyson Douglas was in Tokyo. Got some history.
Mike Tyson's Mike Tyson's actually the only boxer that's headlined in the Tokyo Dome twice. So that's a 50.
Rumor has it.
Interesting.
Sorry, I interrupted you, Base. How many seat stadium? I interrupted that part.
55,000 seat audience.
There you go. So rumor has it, though, that one of the reasons it went to Tokyo was that it was considered to be such a mismatch in the United States that they were finding it difficult at that point in Tyson's career to sell the fight, because Tyson at that point, you guys remember, was blowing through every opponent, and it got to the point actually where interest in him was starting to wane a little bit. But the interest and the fervor for him in Japan was huge. So he went out there for that fight.
That was the second headliner over there.
Yeah,
and no one's been in the Tokyo Dome since then in the boxing world anyway.
No, just K1, just K1, I think.
Interesting. Cordina versus Rakimov has to be the fight of the year for me, but I think a few people have forgotten about it because it happened so early in 2023. That's from SWJ, one of our regulars as well. Toby Bartlett, shout out to you. Toby likes the ring girls, but shh, don't tell his missus. What are we saying about Estrada and Bam? That's from Reese. What are we saying about that? That's the question.
I want to see Estrada against Kazuto Ioka. That's the fight I've been wanting to see, because that's of that era, that generation. To me, Bam is new gen. They still have unsettled business with the older generation that I'd like to get sorted. And like I said earlier, nobody ever mentions Kazuto Ioka's name ever in that division. And Estrada has had the opportunities to fight him and hasn't.
No,
so I want to see us.
So he was supposed to fight him today, but he pulled out of the negotiations for that. It was supposed to be him fighting Kazuto Ioka today.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Perez was a replacement opponent, the Venezuelan. Imagine if we ended the year on New Year's Eve with Kazuto Ioka versus Gallo Estrada. 2023 was already amazing. Imagine if it ended on that note. So that fight needs to happen, to me.
We can talk about predictions for 2024 and what we'd like to see. There's already a few comments in there asking about Fury Usyk, and one of them that I think is a good question is the fight going to happen? But we digress, and that is for 2024. So we talk about fights that you've enjoyed, fighters that you've liked. I'm going to touch on trainers globally. When you think about a trainer, when you look at a trainer, who's caught your eye? And I get it. Loads of people say, oh, but he didn't have him from when they first turned over pro. He's polishing something that was already, a diamond, but he was just in the rough or whatever. But when you look at trainers and you see fighters that have improved with trainers, who would you say really stands out to you?
I have a feeling Base is going to say one of the ones that I'm going to say.
I know who you're going to say, Maestro. So I'll let you have that person. You go first.
The floor is yours, Maestro.
All right. So one of the guys from the United States that I think is very underrated, that does not get credit, is someone who Base is familiar with as well. He's out of New Jersey, and he trains Big Bang, Chinese speed, Chinese power. I'm talking about Zhang Zile, Sean George. The dude needs to get more credit as a high level trainer for sure. I'll drop two more names. I dropped this name a lot, so this is nothing new, but I'm a huge fan of Mark Ramsey and his whole team out of Quebec. Uh, you can look at what he's done with Beterbiev. You can look at what he's done recently too with Christian and Billy, who I think is a big up and comer at 168. He's got other fights as well. Obviously, the Arslanbek fight probably took a little bit of shine off of that because he does train Makhmudov as well.
And Mary Spencer, she's been beat a couple times as well. So his stock's a little bit, it's lowered a bit. He's still high, but it's lowered a bit now.
But this is going to happen when you have a big stable, and he does have a big stable, right? Because you have other fighters that only work with one or two guys. He works with a lot of people. So whenever you work with a lot of people at different levels in the game, especially males and females, you're going to have different levels of success. But I like to look at the guys he's had the most success with, as well as some of the others. And to me, I do not understand how this guy, it goes again to me to the bias against the Eastern fighters and Eastern boxing. But can somebody please give Shingo Inoue some respect? I mean, this dude is trained not just obviously Naoya, but he's also got another son that's a world champion. Takuma, yeah. So he's got and he's trained these. You want to talk about fighters that have been trained by their trainers from ground up? He's trained them from ground up. And he's a former distance runner, very, very knowledgeable about sports science, about physical fitness and training, studied boxing. And you know, Japanese people, when they go into something, they take it super seriously. You just have to meet somebody learning English as a second language in London to understand that. I mean, you go by a library at a uni, you'll see Japanese people there until it closes studying. Very studious as a culture. So I wanted to drop three names. Those are the three names I would drop.
Dani?
Well, I think the obvious one, I would say Bomac, the reason being, you know, what he's done with Terence Crawford. And then also he's managed to revamp Chris Eubank Jr., who, you know, he's been brought back from, you know, the depths because we thought it was all over for him. And he's managed to bring back some of the old Eubank we've been looking for the past couple of years. You know, we've been looking for that ferocity, the mean streak, but he's also let him keep the skill set as well. Bits that he has learned from Roy, like the jab and that, but not jumping around and flailing about. So I think Bomac has had a very good year this year. I know he's not Shakur Stevenson's trainer, but he does have a little involvement, you know, in the same gym to a degree. Another trainer I would say who's, I think he gets a bit applauded, but maybe doesn't get mentioned as much, is Shane McGuigan over here. Very good trainer. He managed to cause a massive upset with Chris Billum-Smith beating his old charge in Lawrence Okoli. So it's like, and the thing is, I know that them two used to spar a lot, and Lawrence used to deal with Chris very often, even stop him in sparring. But, you know, once Lawrence has left him, it's like the sensei, Master Splinter, has said, okay, now this is what you need to do to beat him. This is how you do it. And he's ultimately showed him the formula. Another trainer, you know, he talks a lot. He talks probably a bit too much, but you got to give him his props. And that is Mr. Bill Haney. Yeah, he, you know, another one, took his son from the ground up. You know, I know people make fun of Devin that he, you know, he's gone through private school and, you know, he ain't from the streets and all this type of stuff. But, you know, people talk about Bill's, you know, colorful past and that. But hey, he's put it to positive use and making sure that his son has not followed the path of what he was doing back in the day. And he's now got his son to be, you know, a world champion, an undisputed champion, a two-weight world champion, and doing great things. I think Bill was a very good trainer. So, yeah, that's my three.
Base.
Okay, well, I mean, the majority of mine have gone. But
It just shows that they must be good trainers then, because we
Well,
all
no,
agree.
they are.
Yeah.
They are. What I will say, I think, Maestro, help me out here. What's the name of Oshaki Foster's trainer?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
I don't know his name, but yeah.
I know it's gone out of my head, but I think he deserves some plaudits.
he works with Regis Pro
Regis
Ray
as
too.
well, yeah.
Man,
Was it
That was
Tobler?
Marvin up and disappeared.
Tobler?
I can't remember. It's okay. It will come back to us. But I think he deserves some recognition for what he's done with Oshaki this year. Obviously, Oshaki with no promotional network, won 2 high-profile fights for him, both on away soil. I feel like that's something that's worth mentioning. Robert Garcia, he's got to get some mention for what he's done with BAM this year. Obviously, coming through, winning the title initially with the broken jaw, coming through all of that, and also winning the massive unification with Sonny Edwards. Outside of that, I mean, there's a lot of good trainers. To be honest, I think maybe we might have to give Ben Davison a little bit of plaudits as well,
agree.
because based on his track record this year, like obviously his wins well eclipse his losses, and then outside of that, everyone is now saying AJ's back, and it's the one time that he was working with Ben, whether it was for 5 weeks or whatnot. Even though Ben's been working in the background before, supposedly they say, "Oh, this is the best AJ's looked in a long time."
Well, you've got Lee Wood, you've got
Well,
Jordan Gill. I mean, Jordan Gill.
that.
Come on.
No, there's that. So I think he's worthy of consideration. And I mean, none of the ones I picked would necessarily have been my choice, but they were all worthy of and worthy to be in the conversation. But I do lean more towards both Maestro and Dani, especially with Shingo Inoue, sorry, and Sean George, who I've obviously become quite tight with since the second Zhang fight. So
He loves a name drop, this one,
I mean,
do you want to tell us about how close you are with JR Pattaya as well?
I mean,
did
you
you know
brought it
about
up,
the pregnancy test before he announced it?
I mean, that's your that's your business to expose. I didn't say anything about Jai.
It's all right. It was coming.
No, it wasn't.
Basically, it was coming. We know it was coming. You see this geezer.
I don't need to sprout that.
He just throws it in there like, yeah. Sean George and I on the DMs. FaceTime.
Well, is it true that he's going to be the main sparring partner for Tyson Fury? Because if that is true, that's great sparring for Fury. But ahead of the Usyk fight.
Jai said that himself in interviews. He said
I thought you meant Zilly Zhang. Sorry.
No, he said that if they apparently it was a part of the contract that he had to do some work with him, but he said that he's waiting for a call, and when the call comes, they'll sort it out. Until then, he's not thinking about it.
Listen, we've got to balance this out. So we've got the trainers that we like, but we've got to balance it out because life is about balance, as you know. So who are the trainers? And it doesn't have to be 3. Who would you say is decreased? Like from somebody that was like up there, like, yeah, this is the trainer, and now they've decreased.
Derek James. That's pretty much the only name to mention.
Yeah, that was gonna be probably the most dipped trainer of the year, because he was trainer of the year last year, but he suffered the curse of trainer of the year. Once you win trainer of the year, you tend to have a massive come down, fall off shortly after. Eddie Reynoso, John David Jackson, Freddie Roach. It happens often. It happens often.
What are you thinking, Maestro?
Well, there's another name too, but I don't really want to mention this person.
I know it's Ishmael Salas. I'll say it for you.
Yeah, I mean, I've been very disappointed with Ishmael Salas's work, to be honest. And I've got to give another one. And these are guys that I like a lot. But I did not like Andre Rozier's work in the corner of Boo Boo Andrade against David Benavidez. I didn't feel that the instructions were very good at all. And look, it's difficult because you're talking about somebody fighting an uphill battle, right? In terms of Boo Boo fighting David Benavidez. But you know, the instructions, and people can go back and watch that fight, you know. And I know bases with Salas, it's the Joe Joyce preparation with Zhang. First of all, I don't even think Joe Joyce should have taken that rematch. You know, with all of the technical deficiencies he displayed in the first fight, you know, you really got to
Hindsight,
question whether you, huh?
don't you think that's hindsight, Maestro? Because
No,
going into
no, no. No. I called the knockout loss in the second in the second fight quite clearly, and I actually called. I man, I don't remember my prediction, but I'm pretty sure I picked Zhang in the first fight as well. But I definitely picked him by KO in the second fight.
second fight, yeah. But what about the first one?
The first fight, I remember thinking that it would be a really good fight. I don't know if I even made an official prediction for that fight, to be honest. But the second fight definitely I picked Zhang by knockout, and I don't know. I mean, you guys ask yourselves, did you see much improvement by Joyce in that fight?
No,
I mean, I didn't.
But
did you see any kind of adaptation in terms of?
No.
I mean, I saw. What the worst part about it was that the defensive change that I saw was actually detrimental. You know, the way he was positioning his hands on defense and where he was throwing his jab from. Like if that was the technical adjustment, that wasn't a very good technical adjustment. I don't know, he just did not look prepared for that fight. And if you're talking about the corner work between rounds, you know, I didn't see anything there that screams trainer of the year, like one of the best trainers out there. And those are the kind of accolades I was giving Ismail Salas before. So when somebody's positioned so high, that's the standard that you're expecting, you know. I haven't yet seen the Kazurioka fight out of Japan. He's Kazurioka's trainer as well. So who knows? Maybe he looked brilliant today. I couldn't find a link to the fight, unfortunately.
So to be carry on with the balance, then we look at fighters. You know, we can talk about the most improved fighter, but which fighter or fighters would you say that you believe in 2024 really need to pull their socks up and make some improvements? Where you've seen a decline in a fighter and you're thinking, hold on a minute, is there something going on here, and can they recover? And I'm going to throw that at base first, then Dani, then Maestro.
I guess Lawrence Okoli's got something to prove at the moment. You know, coming off of, he was champion, lost. We haven't seen him since. We don't know exactly what he's doing at the minute. He says he's supposed to be fighting in February, so I'd like to see who he's fighting, how he looks, how him and Sugar Hill are gelling, because you know, I guess the jury's out on Sugar Hill at the moment as well. Outside of him, Josh Taylor, he needs to come back and look good. And you know, as a fellow Capricorn, I do have to judge him harshly because I expect excellence. He's looked awful in his last two fights. So yeah, I need to see better from him. I'll leave it as those two because I'm sure there's many others, but I'll let other people have a say.
Yeah. Well, I'll go with my fellow Lion, Leo, in another Sugar Hill fighter, funny enough, in Tyson Fury. He definitely needs to pull his socks up and fast because he's only got a couple months left. Otherwise, he's
7 weeks, apparently.
Yeah, if he makes it. Otherwise, he's set to get beat. Another fighter. I think another fighter who needs to pull his socks up. I think he can, but I'm not sure if he can. He might go down that same old Ohio State route, is Montana Love. He's going down that same Broner. You know, he's got all the talent in the world, all the tools, but he's let the gas goes to his head. He's bringing out little puppy dogs. He's doing stupidness. So he's young enough. He needs to fix up and get serious with the sport again, because you ain't no world champion. You ain't even won a world title yet. And you're going on like you've made it. Broner at least became a 3-division world champion before he completely lost the plot and started going on music tours and wrecked himself. But Montana Love, he's another one who needs to really start pulling his finger out. And just to go back where you was talking about trainers who dipped. What was the trainer I had? It was Malik Scott. He disappointed me. Yeah,
what do you mean? Was he up there?
No, because the performance and the instructions he was doing for the Fury 3 fight with Wilder compared to what he was doing with this Parker fight was just like east and west. It was completely different. I don't know what his head weren't even there in the fight.
Not to mention the tactics too. I mean, this whole circling left and right thing. When has Wilder ever fought like that his entire career?
Never. Back foot fighter.
It was like night and day what he was saying in the Fury 3 fight and how he was doing with his Park fight. So I don't know. I don't know what batch of cigars he's been smoking, but he needs to take it easy with the XXNX stuff as well. He needs to kind of take it easy on that too. But yeah, that's my picks. Sorry, it's the sorrel. The sorrel's getting to me. Sorry.
Oh, I love sorrel.
I got the carrot juice.
So I mentioned someone earlier. I'm going to mention him again. Arslanbek Makhmudov. I mean, I was at his fight in Toledo on the Jared Anderson, Prince Charles Martin undercard, and I'd been to a couple of his other fights prior to that, and he just looked like a wrecking ball. Well, he didn't look like a wrecking ball on the Day of Reckoning card. He's got to make a comeback because he's not young either, despite his experience level in the program. He turned pro rather late, so he's got some catching up to do rather quickly. The other name I got to mention, and this isn't just based on the last performance, it's based on the performance prior to that, so the penultimate performance as well. And I'm talking about Regis Prograis. I mean, Regis looked terrible against Danielito Zorrilla. Was incapable of making even the most rudimentary of adjustments. I actually thought he lost that fight. Danielito Zorrilla was ugly, but he was effective. Okay. I thought he edged out that win. And then he literally got shut out. He didn't win a round against Devin Haney. We're talking about a guy who many consider to be the man at 140, a guy who many considered to get the short end of the stick against Josh Taylor, and who was positioning himself as somewhat of an uncrowned champion until he won the vacant title. Well, I mean, for somebody of that level to get shut out by somebody making their debut in the weight class, regardless of how good Devin Haney is and how well trained he is by Bill Haney, he didn't win a round in a fight where he was defending his title. Want to talk about catch up? I mean, he's probably at the top of my list.
Maestro, what's the name of that top ranked prospect? He lost his penultimate fight and then he drew the last one, but they've been matching him really tough. He's also got to step up. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, though. I know you'll know it.
What weight class?
He's one of the lighter weights. I think he's like 140.
Lost his last fight.
He drew the last fight, but he lost the fight before that. He's like but he's been matched really tough.
At 140, top rank. Who's at 140? I mean, they just lost the guy at 140, the Golden Boy, the Rick Meridian fighter. Man, it's the morning over here, guys.
It's not him. It's one of the black prospects, but I just can't remember his name. I'll have to get it and I'll put it in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Improved fighters then. Who is the most improved fighter for 2023?
I was talking about Arnold Barbosa is the name that came to mind, but not him because he's undefeated.
Yeah, no, not him. Yeah, not him.
Okay.
Improved fighter.
Most improved fighter?
Yeah.
Most improved. That's a good question. One that I haven't thought of. Off the top of my head, I can go back to Oshaki Foster. He's improved a lot. I mean, he looks like he could be the man in that weight division, and I don't think anybody was really saying that a year ago. Definitely not 2 years ago. So he's improved a lot. In terms of a major name out there,
Not even that. I don't care about names. I just care about the fighters. So, who?
come back to me. I'm going to think of a better answer.
Dani? You're on mute, Dani. Unless you're trying to tell me telepathically.
No. Oh, sorry. The most improved fighter. Do you know what? I know. This person has had quite a long career anyway, but I would say Joseph Parker.
Facts.
A good one. That's a good one.
Facts.
Yeah, I picked Joseph Parker. And it's been really good the way he's took this year. If you go back to the end of last year, where he got slumped, he was in a heat, bludgeoned by, Joe Joyce, and the way his mentality to come back, stay active, 4 fights this year, and he's looked really good. Apart from, all right, say the first one back after the loss, and this just shows you why. He didn't look good in that one.
No,
but that shows why you need to, get your confidence back, and then after that, he's just been on a roll. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'd give it to Joseph Parker for me this year.
Base.
Oh, Maestro, I just remember the Jahi Tucker. That's who I was thinking.
Oh, Jahi Tucker. Yeah, he's from Long Island too.
Yeah, he needs to kind of step it up this year. I think his contract's coming up soon, so he needs to get it. But he's a good prospect.
That's a very good one, Base. That's a very good one. I was actually at that fight that he lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so most improved. You know what? I gotta be honest. Well, there's two people that realistically you can kind of say, but the main one, I'm gonna have to go with Daniel Dubois, because he, the experience he got from the Usyk loss, was telling.
I agree.
His link up with Don Charles seems to work well for him and his mentality. Like, even though I didn't give him a round, I gave him 1 round in the entire fight, and it wasn't even the 5th, surprisingly enough. But he hung with Usyk in the first couple, and he showed some decent movement. He still got a bit too much of a stiff upper back, but like what he done against Jerome Miller, that showed the improvements, not just from his technical aspects and his punch selection, but also the mentality and the heart. So for this moment in time, I'll have to kind of give it to him. I'm trying to think, is there any others that I would want to?
I got one more name while you're thinking, Base.
Go for it.
I was gonna say Lee Wood, especially coming off of the loss that he had. He's bounced back pretty well, and I think he'll only be better once he moves up in weight. So I think he's got consideration too.
I wouldn't say it's most improved though, because his improvements happened last year. He's sort of on his, not a plateau, but he's kind of near enough the same level to where he was last year. That's when the improvements happened really at the end of 2021.
So you're talking, okay, so just so that I understand now, the improvement has to have occurred in 2013. Got it.
Yeah.
2013.
2023.
I'm stuck in the past. 2020. I wish it was 2013.
That Miami sticky icky. That's why he keeps on going on to mute, and the camera cuts off. That geezer's blazing that Miami.
No, I can't lie. I wish it was 2013 as well. That was a really good year for me.
Yeah, me too.
Huh?
And he's licking his lips. Why?
It was just a year I was extremely successful between 2013 and 2015. Well, 2016 as well, but that was my little run before I had to reinvent.
So most improved 2023. That's a tough one, because you're talking about someone who's fallen and has been like kind of almost resurrected within the same year. Yeah, Daniel Dubois. It's got to be him, right?
Him and
I,
Parker,
I,
the two solid
Him and Parker,
choices.
I agree.
yeah, Parker Dubois. Yeah, yeah.
And I would say that is down to their trainers. So when you talk about
Ooh, I got another one. I got
I
another
got
one.
one as well. I got one as
go on,
well. Francis and Ngannou.
Chris Eubank Jr. I mean, he got knocked out and he came back and dominated in the return fight.
I got Francis
Right?
and Ngannou.
He lost though. He lost.
Happened there. Yeah, but it was
Yeah,
most improved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good
No
one.
one
Yeah, you're
expected
right.
that. No one expected that.
Yeah,
performance
nobody
from him,
expected
so.
that. So basically, he's improved from 0 up to where he got. Yeah, Francis Ngannou. That's a good one, babe.
We got a shout out. Shout out to Ben Whitaker's dad, Big T in the chat, always supporting what I do as well. So massive respect to you. Those
Salute to you. I met your son in Midtown Manhattan. He was there with Sugar Hill.
He was a boxer as well. Tony was a boxer himself. He used to fight as an amateur against the coach that I use for my training. So that kind of small circle there, top of West Mids, we'll keep it as that. So shout out to you, Tony. Lovely guy. Happy New Year, Cornell, a fellow Brummy. I like to see these Brummies. I think this might be one of yours, Maestro. Shouts out to the legendary Maestro Boxing.
Oh, appreciate that. That's my guy's slide tendencies.
Yeah, obviously, we're getting some support for Zilly Zhang. Yeah, hit the likes if you haven't. And thank you, those of you that have just joined or have been sat here for a while. Forgive my manners. This is the 2023 review, and I'm joined with special guests. They've put their handles in the chat, guys. If you want to keep doing that throughout the chat, that's fine. We've got Maestro, our US correspondent. We've got Dani, Fight Fam TV. And we've got Basedakid trying to get it all confused down there. And we're all YouTubers, boxing YouTubers. We're all what you would call interviewers, conversationalists. We all love the sport, and we're just breaking down what we see has caught our eye and what could be better, and things that have happened in 2023. Oh, let's have a look. Hold on. Are any of you?
Well, they're the handles right there.
Yeah, it's all right. It's because I'm on the widescreen because of the chat. I'll have to hide it. Any of you going to the IBHOF? I'm from the UK, but going out for the first time to see Jane Cout. The inductees.
All right, so funny story on that one. I was actually heading up to Canastota, New York, because for those of you that don't know, I live in the Bronx, New York. So Canastota is probably about a 4.5, 5 hour drive for me. And I made the mistake of accepting a EV vehicle, an electric vehicle, and this shit died on me like an hour outside of New York City. I posted it on all my socials. It was embarrassing. So yeah, I do have to go out again. So whoever that was, look for me, and I will be driving a combustible vehicle up there next time, not an EV.
We like that. Ellis Palmer, Jamie Moore, and Shane McGuigan, both brilliant trainers. What about Bill Haney? Yeah, we've mentioned that. We've got another Ring IQ Boxing Talk. Shout out to you, and thank you very much for the US dollars, $4.99. Shout out to the Capricorn Brother Base for the excellence in Capricorn affairs. Bon you
I do what I can.
Librans, man. Where's the Librans? Adeola
Depot.
Adeola Depot. In fact, what I will do is give a massive shout out to Adeola Depot. He started off, he's the green chair, a boxing purist, analyst who's gone from YouTube, and forgive me if there's steps in between, to DAZN, and now he's doing like football presenting on Amazon. When we look at people and we look at influencers or people that you can learn from, I'm not talking about all these Instagram influencers with Botox and baddies and all that. I'm not interested in that because that's not teaching you to aspire to be anything. But you look at your colleagues, the ones that start off, like you said, grafting, doing the YouTube stuff, turning up. And he's one that's testified, and he's got his story, and he's been really successful in everything that he's doing. So shout out to Adeola Depot, and he supports fellow YouTubers as well. There's loads of times when he's brought me in and said, yeah, I'll do this, and shout me out and all of that stuff. And he doesn't have to. Because sometimes when people get to a certain level, they're not really bothered about, if you want to look at it in a hierarchy perspective, people that are below them. So shout out to Ade and go and follow his channel. I know he hasn't been doing any green chair stuff, but he's clearly busy. But he states that he'll be back soon. And even though Ak and Barak do the DAZN thing out in America, nobody does it like Ade. So I'll just leave it there because, you know. Let's have a look. Sugar, just going through all of the chats. There's so much chat in here. Stephanie Ray, shout out to Stephanie, US viewer, always pops in, does her super chats as well. She was the one that actually paid for me to watch the Day of Reckoning and stream that live because she gave a very generous super chat. So a warm welcome to you as well. Boxing Corner Casuals. Learning is also about getting far. Yeah, shout out to this channel as well. I've seen you pop up a couple of times. I like how you do it. You got manners and respect. You're not snaky like some other channels. I'm not even going to get into that now. But I rate how you're doing your thing. I've had a look on your Instagram. Guys, go and subscribe. Boxing Corner Casuals. They've got their own stuff. They've got the podcast. It's all set up. It's nice. So shout out to you as well.
Yeah, they got a good interview with Savage Dan. I like so check that out, guys.
Yeah, we've got to show them support. Dodge 172, big up Base, my queen and panel. Good to see you and thanks for doing a live. It's my birthday. Dodge, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Dodge.
I'm sick of these Capricorns everywhere.
Where's my lions, man?
Where it's at? We are the be all and end all. We end the year and we start the year. I mean, how great is that?
What star sign are you, Maestro?
Oh, I'm an Aries.
Oh, opposite to me, the fire sign.
Yeah,
I mean, we like to butt heads. That's what we do.
Yeah, that's why we get on fire signs.
So I'm the only air one in here, but let's not do the stargazing. Thanks, Maestro. We'll come and introduce myself and buy you a drink in June because I ain't going to try and pronounce that. Not after I've just
sounds good. I'll be up in Canastota.
Super.
I wanted to be there. It was Cole Frost got inducted this year.
Yes.
Who else got inducted? There was a few people. Tim Bradley got inducted this year. The crazy thing about that too is that I didn't go to the Teofimo Lopez Josh Taylor fight on the Saturday in order to go up there on the Saturday. Boy, did I regret that.
It's one of them. Super chat, WM Boxing Views. Shout out to all 4 of the channels. Music is going to school Fury twice. We will then see AJ send Fury into retirement. And we're going to pause it there.
That's not going to happen.
I need you guys to give me your opinion on promoter of the year. Who is the promoter of the year 2023? Because we've had some interesting stuff happening in the world of promoting. So, yeah.
Yes. And you know what? I did a poll on Twitter and everyone went for Eddie Hearn, but no way. Not this year.
You're going to say Frank Warren, yeah?
No, not Frank Warren. I would say if you're talking about promoter overall,
really?
Card for card, like all cards, I'd have to say Bob Arum.
Top rank.
Yeah, top rank. Overall. All cards. If you go
Top rank is my favorite promoter. And I'll tell you why. The majority of their cards are not behind the paywall. The problem with Matchroom for me this year and DAZN is that a lot of the big fights I wanted to see, and some of them were not even like huge fights. Like to me, I'm sorry, like Regis against Devin Haney, that's not like a blockbuster fight. That's a good fight. That's a fight that would have been HBO World Championship Boxing when I was a kid, or Showtime Championship Boxing. That would not have been on pay-per-view, but they put it behind the paywall. So once you start doing that, I'm agreeing with Dani. Like you remove yourself from the conversation. The majority of the top ranked shows were not pay-per-views. There was a couple like Haney versus Loma. But the majority you could watch on regular ESPN. For that reason, I'm also selecting Top Rank. But my other promoter of the year, pound for pound, best promoter in the sport, is none other than Big Frank. Shoulder roll. We all got to do a little shoulder roll right now. Loosen up a little bit.
Don't wanna
It's
sit
Frank
there,
Warren,
Frank.
baby.
Well, ask
Frank
sit
Warren,
behind
man.
you now. Hey, man, where's the shoulder roll? You got to do the shoulder roll for Big Frank.
Big Frank. Big up, Big
Please,
Frank.
I can't.
You want to talk about comeback of the year? Talk about Big Frank.
Yes.
We've got to give Frank Warren his flowers. We've got to.
Yeah. But I'll tell you another. Al Heyman's had a great year this year, even though next year he's finished. But
You're trying to get Al Heyman arrested. He's not a promoter.
yeah, but PBC.
PBC is not even a promotional company.
PBC is not a promoter. No.
So they're
essentially an advising / PR group. If you go through BoxRec and look at who promotes those fights, you're gonna see Samson Lekovich. You're gonna see Tom Brown. So you could give it to Tom Brown. Tom Brown's been involved in a lot of events, but he's more kind of behind the scenes. But actually, I wouldn't even say he's behind the scenes. He's running the press conferences. He's introducing the fighters. It's his name that's on the promotion.
You know what I like? I like this. What I like, and I think we can probably end it on a note here and finish off on this one.
Mm-hmm.
What I like to see is the dynamic shifting in the boxing. I like to see that the fact skills challenge was set up and everything was good to go. We were getting the AJ Wilder fight, and then you saw Frank, and he almost had a balaclava on. He caught his aeroplane, went over there and said, "Hold on, who's your boss? I'll tell you what, I'll go over your head and I'm going to set something up with those guys." And
His Excellency.
Yeah. And albeit, this is the ruthless type of business in any business, not just boxing, but it was just savvy. Now, I get it. It's pissed a lot of people off. People had money, people waiting on certain fights to happen. Certain fights didn't happen because of it. But we got what we got last week, which was eight top fighters on one card. No, they weren't fighting each other. But because the Saudis, pulling everyone's puppet strings, throwing Rolexes, giving man money and all that, saying, yeah, come over and work with us. We saw everything just take a sidestep and everyone work together. I never thought I would see Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren in the same room together, let alone sat at a top table. So
sitting beside each other ringside too at the fight, laughing with each other.
So at the end of the day, I think it would just be rude if I didn't thank His Excellency for what he's done to boxing in 2023. He set up Riyadh season. He's going to carry on into 2024. But guys, I'll hand it over to you. What do you think?
What's this about?
How boxing has progressed, how it's changed. How I'm saying the man of the match, if we're going to do football, is Frank Warren.
Okay. I mean, yeah, look, it's hard to argue, Frank. To be fair, even his small hall shows, even him being a small hall promoter earlier on this year, like a lot of those I went to, and they were all fairly entertaining. There was a couple obviously duds here and there, but everyone has a few duds, but those fights were good. Obviously, if we look at, getting Better Biev over here in January was a big coup.
That's a big
so
one.
for people to see him, obviously I was supposed to go, but I couldn't make it in the end. We had doing Joyce versus Zhang the first time was like, oh, whoa, wait a minute, like what's this isn't the kind of fight I'm expecting from Frank. And honestly, that's not what you expect when you normally it's a big A side and then someone that's in like the top 75 of BoxRec at best. But no, it came in very credible opponent. It was a good fight. It was a good card as well. When I got there, I was entertained. Obviously Denzel Bentley done some good stuff. He had the great story with Nathan Heaney as well. Liam Davis, he's done brilliant with him this year. So there's all of that. Plus, obviously, he went and got the Saudi bag, as you said. I mean, Battle of the Baddies had a very good undercard, and then I guess it had a intriguing or surprising main event, which I still haven't seen all the way through. Well, actually, no, I have now, but I didn't when it came on. That was my protest. but no, and then obviously he's now, you know, decided to quote unquote be the bigger man and allow everyone to quote unquote sit at the table. Although I don't know how much choice and decision he had in that decision there, because if you look, when there was more matchroom fighters on the card than Queensbury, and it's supposed to be your event, that seems a bit telling in my mind. But yeah, there's about 12 different promoters all banded together with him at the helm on TNT Sports and the Zone. So kudos to him. Got to give up to old Frank. I hope he repeats next year, because those small hall shows at Bethnal Green, they do quite well.
I think there is, you know, there's obviously there's a market for it, but when I'm looking at it as strategy. I'm looking at it as somebody going over your head or going round the back to make something for themselves very, very profitable. Because remember, all we heard at the back of 2022 going into 2023 was skills challenge. That's all we heard about. Then all of a sudden that just like evaporates into mist. And then obviously, you know, you heard Frank, oh, it's going to be a game changer, rolling shoulders, smirking. You know what it was in his little cold interviews. He weren't saying nothing. And then all of a sudden we do get Battle of the Baddest. I look at things and I think Eddie is very ruthless, but I think Frank has trumped it with what he's done. And yes, they're working together, whether they want to or not. Like you said, Base, they've probably not got a say in it. But for the fans, it's actually good to see that happening, because now we will start to get those promoter versus this promoter fighters fighting each other. And that is what we want to see, because not every promotional company has got the best stable. The fighters are scattered out across all stables, across how many promoters, not just in the UK. But the only bad thing that I would say about it is that Boxer never had any fighters on the card, and they could have.
Yeah, they didn't.
Boxer, I don't think is on the same level though, to be honest, as Queensbury and as Matchroom. Maybe in the cruiserweight division, but that's about it. But I did want to. So one other thing I wanted to piggyback on what you were saying is that I also like the fact that they tried out a new model, which is terrestrial rights, BT Sport, streaming rights, The Zone. I'm hoping that leads to something that can create more cross-promotional fights where both entities get a share of the pie, but they divide it according to that way. Because at the end of the day, The Zone is primarily a streaming platform, and BT Sport is primarily a set-top box platform. So if they can continue to make that work like they did for Day of Reckoning, I hope we get to continue to see big fights featuring, or big fight cards featuring, Matchroom and The Zone fighters. I think once you bring Boxer into the picture, it complicates things, because then you have to deal with the rivalry between Sky and TNT Sports, right? Because they kind of operate within the same domain. That's just my observation from here in the United States.
No, I hear you. Danny, sorry.
Yeah, and with Frank Warren, the York Hall stuff is good. You know, you had good fights like, what's his name, Dennis McCann versus Baluta, even though that was a funny ending. And that was a fight where I thought, oh, that you're pitching one of your prospects, like he's pitching them in hard. Like I went out to Poland this year to a Frank Warren show for Dubois Usyk. So you know he's getting locations out. He's getting locations in there, like, you know, Saudi, Poland, England. He's doing bits, Mr. Frank. So yeah, I like it.
To be fair, that wasn't his show in Poland. That was actually
it's Krasiak, wasn't it?
Yeah,
K2.
that was them. No, it was a KO Promotions, the
That's
Polish outfit.
Sorry.
With Riyadh Season.
In Poland.
Sorry, not Riyadh Season. I mean Skill Challenge.
Skills Challenge.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Skills Challenge.
So what Frank like?
But one thing Frank did do though, Danny, is he brought China into the picture, because he got options on Big Bang with that fight with Joyce, and you know that potentially opens up a new market for Queensbury. I mean, there was like almost 500 million people watching that rematch in China between Big Bang and the Juggernaut.
Yeah, and it seems like he's got hold of Fabio Wardley as well, which is a good little scout to get hold of as well.
Fabio Wardley is multi-talented. He's, when you say that, he can do the punditry. He can obviously box. He's got a good TV image. So I see his career set up long past boxing. He's witty. He's sharp on the social media. I do like watching Fabio Wardley's fights, but listen, these fights have already happened. We could
It's another guy
discuss.
that needs to come
Sorry,
back.
go on.
Can I just say one
Yeah,
fight
yeah,
from
yeah.
the small halls that
Yeah,
was
go on.
really good, and if anyone hasn't seen it, I would implore them to go watch it. It was Joshua Frankham versus something Davy. It was on the same card that Elizoro fought Luca Diortenzi.
I would have
That
watched.
in terms, sorry.
No, I'm saying I would have watched that because I watched.
Yeah, no, it was Queensbury. It was a Queensbury card. Joshua Frankham versus I think it's Luke Davy. I think his name is. But that fight was definitely fight of the night, and that was a really really good. If more people had seen it, that could have been one of those. You could have called it maybe a domestic fight of the year or something. But it was a really good fight. If anyone hasn't watched it, if it's on YouTube, I would implore you to go check it out.
Nice one, guys. We're gonna Is it just base that's frozen, or have I frozen as well?
I went
base
to
froze.
another screen.
Can I make a request of the people, please?
Go on then.
I have not seen the Kazuru Yoka fight. I've looked into all of my sources, my Russian sources, my Asian sources. I can't find it. So if anyone can send me a link on social media or using my email address, I'd really appreciate it because he's one of my favorite fighters and always try to watch his fights.
Any final words from yourself, Dani?
Just be safe tonight, guys, wherever you go or whatever you do. And hope you have a happy new year. And be sure to support all 4 of our channels into the new year, because I'm sure we're going to bring you even more bigger and better product in 2024. So just support. And thank you for all the new subscribers as well to Fight Fan TV Live. Hope you've enjoyed the content on the Neutral Corner podcast and so forth.
Listen, it's been a pleasure, guys. I've loved this. There was so much more we could have covered, but we would have been here all night. And what I like to do is I like to leave people wanting to come back for more. So guess what? We're going to do it again. We'll drop the surprises on you, but we'll do something like this again.
Yeah, let's do it again. Definitely.
Before we sign off, we all must give manners and respect to Miss October Red Media. She's done a phenomenal 2023, amazing, and she put this live together. She brought all of us together for this, and she's the reason this is taking place. So I want to thank you for all your hard work and the help that you've provided to me and others this year. It's much appreciated. You are one of the treasures, and you must be viewed as such. So everyone in the chat, round of applause for October Red.
Oh, bless. Thank you.
Yeah, hit the like button. Hit the like button.
And yes, October. And well done. Like the way you've built your brand and your channel. Kudos and enough big ups and respect, because
to all of us. We're all building
but I'm saying to you, and you actually, I don't know if you managed to see on Twitter, but you actually won Media Outlet of the Year from the Fight Fan TV supporters. It's a voting poll. You was against the big dons as well. IFL.
Imagine no sponsors, and I get that. I'm touched. I'm touched. Listen, till the next time, I'm going to end it here. Let's have a safe evening. Don't do any stupid stuff, but enjoy yourself. And remember, tomorrow isn't promised. So make the most of your loved ones. That's the only message that I'll leave you with this evening. I think we're going to end it there. And you know what we say at October Red? Stay ready.